Obviously, I wouldn't want to get franchise tagged. I mean, I feel like nobody really do. I wouldn't mind it if, they got the right guys in the building around us, like they got to, put some guys on defense, figured out the quarterback situation, got some guys up front. But if you want me to come back and be the hero, then you have to pay me like a hero.
Josh Jacobs definitely does not seem happy about his situation with the Raiders right now, and this is more evidence of it. This is the latest development. We've seen other tweets and other messages like this from Josh Jacobs in the past, which allude to the fact that he's not happy and not getting the exact deal he wants with the Raiders right now after finishing as the #1 running back in the NFL. There's also the Saquon Barkley situation happening in the background, and I think before we go into this, it's important to know that Saquon Barkley is holding out just like Josh Jacobs, and he's demanding a lot of money. And this is a guy who's been injured for about a whole year in the past. Jacobs, has he ever had that type of issue? No. Jacobs has maybe missed a game here. The guy is always available, and that distinguishes him from Saquon Barkley, and he's putting up arguably better, if not the same, better numbers technically. So randomly, Jacobs says, sometimes it's not about you. We gotta do it for the ones after us. Vague message. What does it mean? This is the typical response that people usually give is, it could just be about his personal life. It doesn't have to be about football. So what do you think? Is this about some date that went wrong with Jacobs? What do you think?
It's obviously about football, and it's you can't not think of Le'Veon Bell. Disastrous attempt at a holdout. Although you think you'd push back against the people invoking the memory of the Le'Veon Bell epic holdout with the Steelers a few years back, as he ultimately got paid. So maybe it wasn't that much of a disaster.
Right.
It's really rough because you saw what he did last season. He carried us. And you know what? In 2021, there were a couple runs there in that Chargers game. Like, he won the game. You can't ever pin it on one person. But if we didn't have him do what he did, I don't think we would have made the playoffs that season. So, I mean, it's the way the market's going right now. The tag, it's like 10.1 mil. He wants to actually get compensated for what he did and have maybe a fuller idea of the value that he brings to this team, especially looking at the quarterback situation with the Raiders.
Right.
It's just like, what's he going to have to do? And is he going to have to put his body on the line and play through injuries? Because you're going to get injured. You're a running back, especially if you're getting a lot of snaps. Is he going to have to put his body on the line for a 4-13 season? I mean, you're looking at all that. How do you not feel bad for the guy?
Audrey, you haven't heard the Super Bowl is in Vegas this year.
Yeah.
The Raiders are going to the Super Bowl.
That's true. That's true.
So, okay. And this has been the last of many cryptic messages about the Raiders at the Pro Bowl, saying he's not going to disrespect himself, and that if you want me to be the hero, you got to pay me like the hero. He famously said that on NBC, on Twitter. Well, we haven't heard from Jacobs in 9 days. What did he say 9 days before this cryptic post? Well, he just tweeted this thinking emoji about Brandon Marshall and I Am Athlete, talking about how the running backs need their own union and they're incredibly underpaid. So he's critiquing the disrespect at the position prior to this, showing that he's had the highest career grades from players in the 2019 draft class. Literally, if you're going according to PFF for everything, well, the guy's been the #1 player according to PFF out of the 2019 draft class so far. Yeah. Max Crosby's on there as well, along with Nick Bosa, AJ Brown of the Eagles, former Titan, at #2. Another thing that was very interesting was the Chris Johnson interview. Famous running back for the Titans, great back. And the gist of this is that he's just astounded that somebody like Josh Jacobs can't get a deal. If Jacobs can't get a deal, basically, this is Chris Johnson's point. If somebody like Jacobs can't get a deal, then who the hell can get a deal? If he can't get a deal, you're basically saying nobody can. And look, there's a reality to the situation. And this is the most famous tweet that we almost laugh about oftentimes. Right after Darren Waller was traded, twaded. I almost said tweet. I almost said twaded. Right after Darren Waller was traded, shit's sad for real is what he had to say. Is that also with the Jimmy Garoppolo signing? Like, not only is Waller being traded sad, but
that was the day before, right? March 13th.
And this is what makes it more difficult for the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo, his foot's a question mark.
Yeah.
And what do we know him? Like, people like to talk about his win percentage. What's his shtick? He hands it off and has a dope defense. That's his shit. He gets injured, hands it off, has a good defense, and every once in a while can hit freaking Kittle or Deebo Samuel in stride. But Jacobs knows the Garoppolo signing means you're going to have to be the hero.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad. I mean, the tag just completely wipes out their leverage. So ridiculously unfair that you can't like have any leverage to kind of increase your value, especially for what he did for us last year, what he did for us in 2021, even dealing with some limited injuries, and then what he's going to have to do this season that we all know he's going to have to do.
Exactly. Thinking about this season, like on one level, I understand the Raiders' approach, and we're going to get into the ramifications of him because Jacobs did not attend minicamp last week. So we're all talking about Barkley. Oh, what's going to happen when Barkley doesn't attend minicamp? What's going to happen when Barkley does not attend minicamp? Well, Jacobs already did not do it. Like the big events already happened, and people just really aren't registering it right now. But when you're talking about the 2023 season, even if you get this guy to play on the tag, like what kind of Jacobs are you going to have play in the 2023 season? There's been all this back and forth. I understand the Raiders' approach. I understand Josh McDaniels' approach. You don't want to overpay at running back. Have him be a 1-year rental tag. If he gets messed up, then he can test free agency. That's literally the cold-hearted thinking behind it. And you don't waste that much guaranteed money. And so they want him to play on the tag. That's all that the Raiders want. And all Jacobs wants is to not play on the tag. And if he's forced to, which could happen unless he holds out the entire year, we'll talk more about that. And by the way, Jacobs' comment, many people, and you have NBC Pro Football Talk also pointing out the obvious that this comment, what is this comment? Because we didn't really get into this. We just started talking about the Jacobs situation. Sometimes it's not about you. We got to do it for the ones after us. He's holding out so future running backs get paid higher. This is the sacrifice he's going to try to do. He's going to try to just sacrifice and literally be the Jesus of running backs and put it all on me and hope that it's better in the future.
Okay, I will say, and there's some pushback in the chat, and this makes sense. 10 mil, it's pretty good.
Right.
Didn't get his 5th-year option re-upped along with Abram and Cleveland Farrell last year. They're gone. Farrell's on the Niners, right? Abrams with the Saints.
He's Niner gang,
yeah. So it's like, and then Jacobs had to play in preseason, the Hall of Fame game. Remember that?
Right.
That disaster. It was like they were clearly shopping him, Yeah, it's not nothing. 10 million, 10.1, whatever. It's not nothing. So there's a counterpoint to what we're saying, which is that he's getting paid a lot more than he has been getting paid. And maybe you should just look at the team, at least rhetorically speak more like Josh Allen or Herbert or something and say like, I'm willing to go team friendly and do it for the team.
Oh yeah. It's totally easy because when a QB goes team friendly, team friendly is like 20 million a year.
Yeah.
And that's not even team friendly these days. He's willing to skip out of mandatory minicamp so far. We mentioned that 32,000 once you miss it the second day. The third day is 49,000, 16,000, totaling nearly 100,000. So the Raiders and the NFL are going to fine Josh Jacobs because he did not attend mandatory minicamp. They are going to fine him $100,000.
I don't know, man. People, I guess, want him to just put up or shut up. They want him to kind of just deal with the being tagged and then like play like he did last year. And realistically, I don't see that happening.
And so from his perspective, I could see why he's heated. I could see why the Raiders are hesitant to pay him as well. And look, like we said earlier, what does this mean? Sometimes it's not about you. We got to do it for the ones after us. To me, that means holding out Le'Veon Bell 2.0. And we think of these things as so distant. I mean, this thing was like 3 years ago.
I know.
After you had Bell hold out, you had the fat Christian McCaffrey contract. You saw a spark of running back contracts after Le'Veon Bell held out. Like Zeke and McCaffrey ended up coming right in after that. After people were saying, oh, look what happened if you end up like Le'Veon Bell. Well, you end up getting paid. I mean, yes, he wasn't on a successful team with the Jets. However, he was able to jump to the Chiefs right after this didn't work out. So like what happened? So Bell was tagged, right? And then he held out the entire 2018 season. So tagged in 2017 by the Steelers, tagged again in 2018. He was not down. And he did what Jacobs seems like he's thinking of doing, where he's just not going to show up and he's going to forego that $10 million. Wow. He's going to forego that tag money. And then people are like, oh, you might regret it. Well, guess what? In free agency the next year, Le'Veon Bell got a 4-year deal, $52 million. People say, oh, the Steelers offered him more money. Now, the Steelers offered him more money in terms of salary, but the guaranteed money was not even past one season. So he was still basically a 1-year rental. And the Steelers tried to make it seem like in the media that they're giving him a fat contract. The Jets gave him $27 million guaranteed. That's basically like a 3-year deal, almost 2.5. And they ended up paying it. And then when the Jets released him in 2020 after it did not work out. Le'Veon Bell and Adam Gase did not get along. Well, they still owed him $6 million in the 2020 season. And then he went over and hopped on the Kansas City Chiefs team in 2020 and had himself some fun. So he didn't miss out on too much. He didn't do much with his career much after that, Le'Veon Bell. But when you're talking about getting paid, and when you're talking about getting paid guaranteed money, well, he got exactly that.
Yeah.
By holding out.
That is true.
I hope he's a part of the Raiders, but I think he's sort of drawn a line in the sand, and I think it's quite clear where this is headed.
Yeah. Saying that you're doing it for posterity, that he's digging his heels in. He's not budging. So, I mean, it's also a negotiating position. So.
Yeah, because will he ultimately budge? Is he just saying this to, he might hold out?
My heart says no, but my head says he's going to play on the tag.
He's going to budge? You still think?
Yeah,
I think, you know what? I think he's probably got a pretty good agent who told him, hey, people pay running backs for one reason only. And I think this is why the Jets paid Le'Veon Bell. Not only because they're talented and can be productive, obviously. The Niners just, they have Christian McCaffrey, who's not cheap, but it hypes up your team. And if you're a team that's kind of looking for a spark, maybe you're not expecting to go to the Super Bowl, but you want more fans in the stands. You want people to have a jersey that they could buy and rally around. I can see a lot of people grabbing Jacob's jersey no matter what color. Let me just say that.
I know, I have one.
yeah.
Silver and black.
We got to quit buying Raiders jerseys because then they leave. So I almost bought a Waller one last year. So yeah.
That's bad. Yeah. Last year, it was like a mixed blessing. It's kind of a mixed bag, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. When he was balling out and he had that stretch of games there, he was setting it up so that he could say, if you want me to be the hero, you have to pay me like the hero.
Right.
And I think after one game in particular, I think maybe a Broncos game or something. I remember we literally put like heroic or whatever, something to that effect on the thumbnail. Yeah. And it was just like he was playing for his future leverage. And he was demonstrating that he's the best running back in the league. And in terms of working through injuries and being able to recover quickly and be in availability. So I don't know how happy the coaches were necessarily. It puts it into a different light. Because obviously last season was a wash and maybe there were certain people, particularly in the coaching staff, who weren't terribly committed to a winning season, right? And so then it's like, well, Jacob's doing that. It almost seems like this virtuoso sort of like performance, like F you to whatever the team is doing. And by that, I mean the leadership of the team. I mean the coaching staff. So anyway, mixed bag there with last year. He demonstrated his value. And so it remains to be seen whether he's gonna actually get what he deserves.